We've got Moist Critical and the Sneako Debate, or, Penguins Zero or Charlie, whatever you want to call him. They had a debate.
Charlie!
They had a debate.
Isn't he a unicorn?
They have been, at each other's throats for quite a while on, social media, just bashing each other, they're not very friendly. Somehow they had a debate. I don't know how, but I watch Moist Critical Charlie, whatever. I watch a good bit of his content because I listen to YouTube on the daily. So he's just one of those guys that posts stuff like Asmongold. You cover topics in the space. You cover game controversies. You cover things in the gaming world. Just overall different things that they cover. I enjoy listening to his topics. So they got into a debate, and Sneako, I don't know really anything about Sneako. I just know he's a massive YouTuber in the space, and he's been quite a bit of controversy at multiple times in his career. So their debate, Sneako was arguing about the age of consent. That was his big argument to Charlie that he was trying to push, which is the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard, is people trying to either change the age of consent or argue why it should be lower. His argument was that it should be at the time that you are mature, which is the most asinine thing that I've ever heard.
Well, I mean, he's right. It should be at the time you're mature. Define mature. I don't consider most people to be mature the second they get their first erection.
Yeah.
Or the second that they have their first period. Yeah, I'm going there. Let's talk about what mature really means, because I know people that probably aren't fucking mature at 23.
I mean, there's definitely...
Myself included. I was not mature at 23.
That's an issue, because if, what do you define mature as? Do you define mature at the time that you hit puberty? Because that's definitely not when you're mature.
Right. So, I mean, that's when, your body is capable of doing these things.
But I think it's for the Sneako debate, he wasn't making it a sexual thing. He was making it they can marry, which is also the most ridiculous thing regardless.
Okay, so let's go old school. What back in the day, what was consummation of a marriage?
I mean,
so you're trying to not make it that, but you're very much making it that.
100%.
Consent is everything. We know what consent is.
If you're trying to argue the age of consent, there are ulterior motives there, and it's disgusting.
Well, yeah, but so 18 is the age that you are allowed to sign financially binding contracts. 21 is the age that you are allowed to own handguns. You are allowed to drink alcohol. 18 is the age that you are allowed to, in some states, own firearms. I think you can own firearms at earlier ages.
You can buy rifles at 18. You have to be 21 to buy handguns.
Right. Well, aren't there certain states where you can own rifles at 16?
It's very possible, but I'm not sure on that.
So here's the point here. 18 and 21 are very, very commonly used ages in the realm of law for, public safety, as well as, consumption of chemicals. They won't prescribe certain drugs to kids under 18.
Yeah.
You can't buy cigarettes or vapes. I think vapes and cigarettes are actually up to 21 now.
They're 21 now, yeah.
So why are we trying to lower the age of consent here to your maturity age when,
yeah.
Oh, hi, I'm 13. I can get an erection, so I should be allowed to fuck, but I can't buy a car.
Yeah. It's the most ridiculous argument that you can have. It's trying to justify things, and it's just disgusting. There's no other way to put it. It's disgusting. Because even at 18, you're still not mature. But at 18, you are ready to kind of be introduced to the world. You graduate high school, you're going out into the real world. Some people, by the time they reach 18, they are very mature, and they are ready to take on anything in the world that a grown adult that is 30 is taking on.
Well, and here's the other thing. The reality of it is the situation currently in the legal ecosystem in America, the age of consent is dependent upon each individual. For instance, in Maryland, at least when I was a kid, if I was 14 and she was 14, there was no statutory, rape going on there. That was consensual.
Well, you can't say that word on YouTube. So.
Oh, sorry, but that's what they call it. Similarly, and there was a window of if you were 14, you could go up. I think it was 2 or 3 years, and that wasn't a concern. So 14 with 16 was okay.
It's when you get to 18 is when the issues start to happen, if I'm remembering correctly.
Right, and the thing there is so if you're 16 and you have a 3-year window and somebody's 18, they fall within that window.
Okay.
No crime, no punishment, no foul, no harm.
It's when you're a 30-year-old talking to a 16-year-old.
And you're
That's
not in that
gross.
3-year window. Right.
It's gross.
You're not in that window at that point.
You're far removed from that window. The window you can't even see with binoculars there, Chief.
So, our lawmakers are acknowledging that kids that age are going to do that.
Yeah.
Or at least should be afforded protection if they do that. I don't see any reason to just arbitrarily lower the age and say, okay, 14's the age of consent. Anybody over 14's, open season. That's disgusting. That's those are developing people.
Yeah.
You are going to do emotion. And let's remember, so consent is one thing, right? Well, there's an aspect to all of this that's emotional and really, really damaging in the wrong situations.
If I would argue, some of the most important years of growing up are that that 12 to 16 to 17 range, where if traumatic things happen to you in that window, it changes the course of your life indefinitely.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and I mean, dude, I don't care how old you are. There's an emotional aspect to that.
Well, if you're talking about that, then yeah, of course. Yes.
That's the biggest thing that comes into question with the age of consent.
Yes. I mean, that's naturally what all these people are trying to argue, is because they're trying to justify that they're not creeps, and they are. Anyway, so off the topic of what his argument was, Charlie was disagreeing with what he said in the terms of the consent age. So he tricked Charlie by asking Charlie what he thought about kids changing their gender. And Charlie said, well, if the parents and the kids are both consenting, I don't see a problem with it. That is absolutely a problem. And Sneako was super thrilled about catching him in that, because he was so you agree that a kid can go get his chopped off, but you don't agree that that they can consent to marry, or whatever his argument was in that scheme of things. And Charlie basically was just yeah, I am saying that. That's an issue.
I think, well, first off, be careful how you portray that surgery. But, just to caveat everything, if you are of age, i.e., say you're 26, you've been through life, you were born biologically a male, and through your experiences, you truly feel that you don't really align with what a male is, or it doesn't feel right, or it's not what you want. If you are at that age of majority of 26 and you have, truly matured through enough to fully understand the ramifications of the decision you're making, and you want to, go through a switch, go through whatever, that's entirely, that's on you, you do you. You live your life. You live your best life and make yourself happy. I think that's important.
100%.
But a 13-year-old, an 11-year-old, a 16-year-old even, again, we're back to this whole developmental milestone thing where it's like, how can we safely sit here and say, okay, you aren't responsible enough to drive to own a gun, to drive a car until you're 16, to drink alcohol, to smoke nicotine until you're 21. How can we say that you aren't developmentally capable of making those decisions yet, but you can make a decision that literally changes and redefines who you are for the rest of your life?
So here's the standpoint that I take in that is, if a kid from, say the age of 5 or 6 or even earlier for that matter, say that they take interest in one or the other opposite ends of the spectrum. It is a game channel, but we do get into some topics because we like to keep it about stuff that we're parents as well. So, like, we do have strong feelings about things that involve children and whatnot. And these are members of, like, the gaming community. So I feel like as a parent, as a person in the gaming community, or at least I like to think I'm watching a lot of things in the gaming community as a whole. It was one of those things that I kind of battled whether we should talk about it or not, but I think we collectively decided that we did want to kind of cover this thing because it does involve two influential members of this community and their hot takes on this or that. And as a parent, I just feel like throwing my opinion into it is kind of important, at least to me.
I'm just here to get made fun of for cheeseburgers and receive death threats.
So, whether you have a daughter, whether you have a son, if they both show interest in the opposite gender, one plays with Barbies, one likes to dress up in dresses, whatever, that's fine. There's no harm, no foul to that. It's when you start to introduce the things that change their biology is when that becomes a problem. So, and it starts with the parents. I think a big issue... Joe. Oh, Joe will never let me live that down, Willie. Moist Critical said NES is better than the SNES. I heard too.
I mean, well, damn, that's a hot take. Whew.
So, like, at these young ages, it's the parents that feel like they have to push it or have to, like, define it, like draw a hard line, and they start feeding them, like these hormone blockers and stuff. That's a problem. That's a big, big problem. Because at that age, you cannot speak to whether it's something that you want to do or don't want to do. You can't make a educated decision on that because that's going to change the future of your entire life.
So I'm gonna get us canceled.
Be careful.
In the concept of mental health, I've often heard a phrase used with people who consider calling it, and it's referred to as being a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to portray this as...
So, to respond to that that there's a big difference in choosing to change your sex and being born with the wrong external organs. When we're talking about these kinds of subjects and stuff, like, I try not to jump to the one extreme or the other extreme, where there was inappropriate and bad things done to that child to make him a male because the parents didn't believe in sex. So when we talk about, like, this kind of stuff, I don't like to jump to one extreme and the other extreme. I like to try and keep it in the confines of, like, an average, of a parent that sees their son playing with Barbies, dressing up like a girl, etc., or watches their daughter, who plays with GI Joes and likes to play football. You know what I mean? Like, you have a woman or a little girl that is involved in male activities, or you see a male that is involved in female activities. So when it comes down to like from a parent's perspective, I'm still in the early stages of seeing my child change and these phases that we go through. You know, she's in a phase where everything's Frozen. She loves Frozen. It's singing Frozen songs. It's watching Frozen 1,000 times. It's, you know, all the dolls that she plays with. And then 3 months later, it's all about Inside Out. And like, she just plays like she's the emotions. She likes to play as embarrassment or disgust or whatever. Like, and Frozen is just a thing of the past. Like, when you are at these very, very young ages and you can think, but you're not making educated decisions, a parent should not decide whether or not to change your biology, because that is 100% child abuse. No question about it. It is just child abuse.
I don't know if I'd reach that far.
I 100% would reach that far. It's a thing with, as a parent, you know, if my daughter she likes to go out and hit golf balls with me in the yard, like that, I'm not just like, oh, maybe she's a boy. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that. It's, oh, she likes to hit golf balls. Like, will she continue to enjoy hitting golf balls? Or what if she plays baseball? Or holy moly. Is that a work call? Oh God. So when it comes down to being a parent and seeing these things unfold, you have to let it play out. You don't just immediately jump to like, oh, I need to make sure that they feel a certain way, because they don't know how they feel. They're young, they're impressionable. So, well, no, it's not about the activities they do. It's just the easiest way that I can portray, you know, what I'm talking about. Especially at these young ages, where parents think that just because they're doing these things that they identify as one or the other. It's about just letting it play out as a young child. But when you get into these years where you're running, like they're running through puberty and their body is starting to change and they're experiencing all these new emotions and new feelings, and surprisingly enough, like, if you've ever watched the Inside Out movies, like, it does a very good job at like explaining what a kid going through puberty feels. You have like all of these thoughts and emotions and feelings, and you don't know how to compartmentalize all of them, and you're just in this constant state of like, what am I doing? What do I do? What does this mean? Like, you know, a kid is still figuring it all out, which is fine. That's part of life. And to be a parent is to help your kid through those moments, because we've gone through them ourselves. That's our job as parents, to show our kids how to get through these hard times, how to navigate these emotions, how to navigate all of these new experiences that they're experiencing. So if you have a child that is now, you know, they're doing the same thing. Like, they are feeling a certain way, you know, leaning towards a certain gender, whether it's a boy leaning towards, you know, being a girl, wearing girls' clothes, whatever. There's no problems with that. Yeah, Andy had to take a work call, so he'll be right back. So I'm just going to navigate this by myself, I guess. So, you know, like, if your son is 13 or 14 and likes to wear girls' clothes or paint his nails or grow his hair out or whatever, like, there's no harm in that. There's really no harm in that. Who cares? Will he be, like, he's probably going to get made fun of at school, which is unfortunate. but that's something that as a parent you have to help him through. And as, you know, if there's a girl that's doing the same thing, she likes to wear boy clothes, she likes to dress more masculine, she doesn't like to paint her nails, she doesn't like to do the things that other girls do. All of her friends are boys. She likes to go roughhouse and play football, do all the things. Like, that's completely fine too. Like, you don't have to draw these hard lines of like, that means he wants to be a girl or that means she wants to be a guy. Like, stop drawing these hard lines and making these decisions for them. Let them experiment. Let them play it out. Let them figure it out themselves. There's no harm in letting them just figure it out. If they want to experiment and, you know, as long as it's not harming anybody, let them go. Let them figure it out. It's a very important, very big moment in their lives where they're figuring out who they are and figuring out what they like, figuring out who their friends are, figuring out how to navigate this life that we're living here. Like, it doesn't have to mean anything. It can just be who they are in that moment, which is very important. Let them be who they are in that moment. Don't, you know, point fingers. Don't push them towards something. Let them be who they are. There's no harm in that. And it doesn't mean you have to feed them medication to change their biology and, you know, go to these extremes. Let them just be who they are. When it continues and they are reaching the point where they're 18 and they're, you know, ready to go to college, they've got their, you know, their plan that they want to go. Can I ask what event brought the sex change topic? So if you weren't here, Melissa, it's in terms of like the moist critical Sneako debate. It's two very big YouTubers in the space had a debate, and Sneako was arguing the age of consent, and he talked to Charlie about if he was okay with kids changing their gender, and Charlie said yes. And now Charlie's getting some feedback, some backlash about his viewpoint on it, about saying that it's as long as the parents and the kids consent to it, then it's okay. So we attacked the whole Sneako side of like the age of consent, and now we're at the point of talking about the gender changing with the topic that they were talking about with Charlie that he kind of got caught into. So when, like, back to what I was saying, like when you reach the age of 18, you can make decisions for yourself. If you want to start on, you know, these hormone blockers or medications that will help you make these bigger transitions toward what will make you comfortable, then that is your decision to make. And that I don't have a say in you doing that. Do I think it's okay? I'd say I'm probably 50-50, because I know that there are extremes where, you know, this is what will make them comfortable in their own skin, and I 100% can relate with that. But I still think 18, you're still kind of in this weird transitional period of, you know, maybe you're not the most mature, but maybe you are. So, like, it's really a hard thing to navigate at that age where, you know, but legally they can make their own decisions, and if they want to do what makes them more comfortable and will help them be who they want to be, who am I to say what you can and can't do? That is 100% your choice, and what I have to say about it means absolutely nothing. I can support if that's what makes you happy, by all means, go for it. But that's not the point of their discussion. Their discussion was about children and doing like these, whether it be a soft reassignment or a hard reassignment, which it gets kind of hairy, but regardless, every child and every situation is different, definitely. But when they are young children, you can't be making these super hard decisions and changing their entire life if that's not what, like, it's just not smart to make a decision, because if you make these decisions for your child and start feeding them these medications to them, it can make them fertile. And if they grow up to one, like my daughter says it all the time, like if you ask her what she wants to be when she gets older, the first thing she says without hesitation, I want to be a mother. That's very important. You know, she's 4, and that hasn't changed. That's been her answer for like a year. If you ask her what she wants to be when she grows up, she wants to be a mother. There's no career path. It's just, I want to be a mom. And, you know, that will probably go away. It'll be a phase that she gets out of eventually. But when you make these decisions that will, you know, if I were to be one of these, you know, crazy parents that just is like, oh my God, she's showing signs like I think she's a boy, and just started doing all these crazy things, like, and changed her life to the point where she was fertile, and she comes back to that and she's like, I really want to have kids, and then she goes to a doctor and they say, oh, by the way, you can't have children because you were on these medications. That would be devastating to her. So you have to just let kids be kids. Let them figure it out themselves. Let them be who they want to be. Don't try to influence them one way or the other. Like, if you know, obviously there's extremes of like they're crazy or they're lunatics or whatever, like, then probably influence them a different way, or, you know, things that are wrong, no doubt about it. But when it comes down to a parent's influence, your job is not to influence. Your job is to help navigate them, to help show them how to be good human beings. That's what our job is as parents. Just be good human beings. Raise empathetic kids. Raise, you know, that is not a blanket answer for the situation, to be honest. There are too many different cases, like the parents changing them as a child because they want to be a boy. That's an extreme. Yeah, that is an extreme, but it is also like in the world where people need to define things, you know, you have to define one or the other. You can't just be this person in the middle. Like, there are people that need to be hard here or hard here, and they can't exist in the middle. They have one or the other. Like, there's definitely cases where it's a health risk. You know, you have to give a girl or a boy these medications to prevent certain health risks that they may have. Like, then you're getting into like there's many different ways that you can think about these kinds of things, from the extreme left part to the extreme right part to the extreme center part, to the, you know, rare cases where it's, you know, health risks or things. At our hospital are probably bad. My family down here, they have to go through a lot of mental evaluation before they can even be considered, and they won't do it until they are. Yeah, like the extreme, like, reassignments. Yeah, you can't get those until you are a certain age, which is 100% the way it should be. And especially with, like, giving medications and stuff, yeah, 100% it should be at the age that I was saying, where they can make their own decisions at 18 with a bunch of legal stuff. That should be the age where they can then make the decision to take it that step further, whether it's medications or surgeries or what have you. Like, I think a surgery is probably a little extreme. I think you might, you know, but there are the extremes of, like, the surgery and stuff will make them feel comfortable, and who are we to tell them what they can and can't do? You know, if that's what makes them feel comfortable, I don't have a say in the matter. That's your decision. Then go do it. You are at the age where you can make that decision. That is perfectly fine. You know, I understand the difficulty in making that decision at, you know, 18, where it could be a thing that you regret. And, you know, that's that's a tough pill to swallow for some people, is like the fact that you could, they could eventually regret it if they do it at 18 or if they do it at 20 or 21. Like, there's no real age that you can say that it's actually really are. Who are we to tell them who they are once they are mature mentally? Yeah, I mean, who are we to tell them who they are at any point, really? You could make that argument, Like I said, when they're young and they're kids, like, let them be kids. Let them experiment. As long as they're not hurting anybody, let them figure themselves out. It is the only thing that we as parents can do is to try and keep our kids happy, give them a great life, give them a good childhood, protect them as much as we can in terms of, the scariness of the world and the people that are out there. How do you stand on the... I can't get I can't get into that subject there. That's even hotter water than this, I think. Yeah, like, to wind this conversation down about this and to move on to the next topic, when your kids are kids, let them be kids. Let them experiment. Let them do what makes them happy. If they want to play with if they're a girl and they want to play with G.I. Joes and play tackle football with the neighborhood kids or eat dirt, let them do it. If they're a boy and they want to paint their nails and they tried to, curl their hair with a perm, just let them do it. I mean, they're not hurting anybody. They're just playing around, figuring out who they are. Let them figure out who they are. Let them eat dirt. Let them wear nail polish. Let them, dress up as a boy. Let them dress up as a girl. Whatever makes them happy. I mean, let them be kids. Let them figure it out on their own, and I guarantee that they will turn out just fine. And that pretty much winds down that side of the conversation there.